I'm Lindy Roya, founder of Park Meadows Pilates and Physical Therapy, where we don't just teach you exercise, we teach you how your body is masterfully designed so that you can be strong, flexible, coordinated, and balanced. You can do all the things that you want to do without risk of injury or aches and pains the next day or the day after that. Decrease your dependence on Advil and ice and see us at Park Meadows Pilates and Physical Therapy. There are lots of great exercises in the Pilates repertoire, and actually in all exercise repertoire for that matter, that involve weight bearing over your hands. Things like being on all fours or being in a plank position or being in a side plank position. And these exercises are fantastic for shoulder girdle strengthening and core and trunk strengthening. But what to do if you get wrist pain when you're in that position? And this is something that we get all the time. I can't do that exercise because it hurts my wrist. So to take advantage of all the great benefits of doing arm weight-bearing exercises, we've got to figure out a way that you can do these exercises and avoid the wrist pain. So first of all, why does it happen? Well, it may be because of an old injury. Some people have had wrist fractures, forearm fractures, hand fractures. And this is somewhat common, but more commonly we get wrist pain when there's been no injury in the first place. So why would that be? The main reason that wrist pain occurs when you're doing weight bearing through the arms is because there's something not quite right with the structure, with the architecture, if you will, of how you're organizing yourself over your hands. So just like a building that's poorly constructed, maybe it has kind of a lousy foundation and then the framework didn't go in quite right, and then you stick the roof on and everything starts to collapse. A body that's poorly structured will eventually fail if you continue to abuse it. So the first thing that we need to understand when we go into any kind of weight-bearing position through the arms is that we got to have some basic concepts figured out, and we can help you with those in terms of how you understand the alignment of your spine, how you understand how to activate and control your core, how to work on organizing and supporting from your shoulder girdle. These are all concepts that we need to first of all understand before we even get into weight bearing on the forearms. Then, once you've got the architecture, the structure figured out, then we've got to work on how to support the body over the base. In the case of all fours, the base is the hands, the knees, the tops of the feet. In the case of a plank, all we got is the hands and the very ends of the feet. So let's have a look at what that might look like, give you some ideas of how you can support the wrists or completely get off the wrists if you need to, and then show you some correct and incorrect ways to go about doing that. Okay, so here are some options for you if you're going to be doing weight bearing through your hands. And as we talked about, there's some fabulous benefits to doing weight bearing through the arms, whether we're doing all fours or a plank position. The first option is if you can tolerate weight bearing through the arms, but you just want to decompress the wrist a little bit, you can use a wedge or you can use a half foam roller. They also make things that look a little bit like dumbbells. And you may have also seen weight bearing on the knuckles. I'm not a big fan of either one of those, specifically because it doesn't teach you how to get onto the flat of your hand, so you never actually learn the technique. Those are totally fine if you would like to use them, but just realize that they're not going to give you long-term results because they're never teaching you how to get your wrist into what's called an extended position. So the wedge, you can see here with my wrist, just takes a little bit of the wrinkles out of the wrist when we're weight bearing. And the foam roller, the half foam roller, does the same thing. Just helps us to open up the wrist a little bit so that you're not compressing it quite so much. So these are great options if you're going to be weight bearing through the whole arm. Now, if the wrist can't tolerate either one of those things, getting a box, an ottoman, a stack of phone books, something like that, is also a really good option so that you can come into a weight-bearing position which would put you about the same as if your hand were down on the floor. So a box or an ottoman or a stack of books, something like that, fantastic way to go onto forearms and completely get the weight through the wrist, still getting all the great benefits of weight bearing. So let's take a look at what this looks like on all fours with no props, not on forearms, not with our wedge or our half foam roller. So we discussed the fact that this is an architecture. So we want to arrange our architecture so that we are supported and literally using our core to lift up out of the wrists and the hands so that we're not loading into them. The first mistake that a lot of us make is by aligning our structure so that we're really not aligned directly into the wrists and the hands or directly into the knees and the feet. So what we need to do is make sure that the hands, the heel of the hand in particular, is lined up underneath the shoulder blade and the knee is lined up underneath the hip. From that position, then we can focus on what our trunk, what our torso is doing, and we can use the core, remember the spine wrap or the spine sandwich, to literally actively lift out of the hands. So if you imagine kind of a wrap, the way we looked at with Seymour, unloading my wrists and my hands in this position, that's completely different than if I let all of that go and I load everything into my wrists. So this is what happens if we don't have any core support. Now the opposite of that is that we might then get our spine into more of a rounded position, which still doesn't activate the core or the shoulder girdle enough, and I'm still forcing load into my wrists. So the trick here is to figure out the architecture so that the spine is aligned, the core is activated, and the shoulder girdle is aligned. This has been Lindy Royer with another Pilates tip for you. I hope this helps. If you'd like more information, please come see us at www.parkmeadowspilates.com, or better yet, pick up the phone, give us a call, join our community, 303-649-2165.